Hey there, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Real Estate Recess. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Jennifer Schurter. And today's Thursday, March 14th. Where is this month going? I don't know about you, but I feel like it is absolutely flying by. Have a packed agenda for you today. But first, I want to be sure to introduce today's special guest. Welcome to the stage, my friend, Natalie Ramona of Warm Embrace Senior Services. Thank you for joining today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you give the people a little bit of an introduction about who you are and what it is that you do and what Warm Embrace Senior Services is?
Yeah, so I've been in the senior living industry for probably close to 15 years now. I've worked inside of large facilities. Then once COVID hit and I had babies, I decided to start working for a placement agency. And through that, I decided I should just open my own because it's just works better for my family. So Warm Embrace Senior Services helps seniors be placed in higher levels of care, whether that's assisted living, independent living, memory care, adult foster care homes. I meet with families and I walk them through the entire process from intake to assessments to placement. Mm-hmm. And I do work with a lot with the hospitals. Do get a lot of hospice referrals for that. But it's been such an amazing blessing through this journey. And I'm just so excited and to be here with you and tell everybody about what I do.
Amazing. Well, great. Well, I'm glad you're here. And the reason I wanted to have you on, and I thought this was such a great platform for folks out there who, obviously they're coming to my channel for local real estate information, but I feel like this particular topic and the service that you bring to the table really is adjacent and goes hand in hand with real estate, with people who everybody has family members or people in their lives they care about that are older that need these types of services or need that help. And so it all ties into, the probate situations or helping family members transition to assisted care. So I think that it's it all goes hand in hand very well.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So in addition to hearing more from Natalie, we're going to talk about a couple. We wanted to keep the other topics short since our time with Natalie today is limited, but there's a couple of big things we want to talk about. One is this House Bill 4058. So the Oregon General Legislative Session just happened. I don't know if you knew that, Natalie, but they were working on this House Bill 4058, which has some interesting details that I want to break down for you, what you need to know about it if you're a buyer or seller in the state of Oregon moving forward. And also, this was, as of last night, this wasn't on our original plan, but ODOT has scrapped the tolling from ODOT on I-5 and 205. The governor is pulling the plug on that, at least for now. So yeah, so let's, shall we get into it? What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so first of all, I'm going to share my screen and we are going to look at this House Bill 4058. Sorry, that's not working. We're doing this live, so sometimes this doesn't always work like we want it to. Here we go. Okay, House Bill 4058. What is this bill? You can find this. You can Google 2024 Oregon Session House Bill 4058 to get the text of this for yourself. This is what it looks like. So what they've done is there's some information in here that applies to wholesalers. I don't know if you've ever heard of a wholesaler before, Natalie. Do you know what that is?
I would love for you to just walk me through this.
Yeah, of course. So if you're like most people, anytime you see these PDFs with this language, it's a lot to process. So that's why we're having this conversation. So wholesalers, for a majority of people that in the real estate world that are buying and selling a home that they're going to live in, or even buying investment properties that they're going to rent or maintain that way, that wholesaling doesn't really apply to them. It's so I don't want to spend a lot of time on that. We can come back to that another time. But the part of this that I really want to focus on for a majority of folks out there watching is the Section 15, which applies to real estate licensees. That's a fancy way of saying real estate agents in Oregon. So this bill has basically And Natalie, how long ago was it that you bought the house that you're in?
It was close to 9 years ago. And thankfully, my husband dealt with a lot of it. So that's why I'm so excited to learn about this bill today.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but so you probably vaguely remember the process of meeting with your agent and all the paperwork and legal things that you had to deal with. So what's now happening that if you're buying a property in the state of Oregon and you're using an agent, a buyer's agent to help you, that agent is going to be required to have a buyer broker representation agreement. And I would think of that like an employment contract between you and your agent that is going to outline several things. Like it's going to outline what your agent is going to do for you as far as how what services they're going to perform. It's also going to tell you as a consumer the limitations of your agent's license, because as an agent, I can't practice law. I'm not a CPA. There's several things that go above and beyond what I can actually do as an agent. And so this agreement that you as a buyer will sign is going to outline those things so that you have a good understanding of what services you're receiving. So that is it in a nutshell. How does that sound? Does that sound confusing and daunting in any way?
It does. I'm thinking of it from, my family buying a house, but I'm also thinking of it from the perspective of a senior that's, old age that doesn't really understand contracts. So having it broken down for them might be more beneficial.
Yeah, of course. And so yes. So the other piece of this too that we should talk about. Don't want to miss this because it's a big piece. The House Bill 4058 also says that in this buyer broker agreement, it's going to detail how that buyer's agent is going to be compensated for their time and for the services they're providing to the client, the buyer. So that is also going to be broken down. And this has always been the case, whether or not it's actually been put into practice or has been realized by consumers, is that the buyer is ultimately always responsible for the payment to the buyer's agent. However, people who are selling properties may be willing to offer compensation. So that's where you know that your buyer's agent has been compensated by what the listing agent has offered as the commission percentage, right? So moving forward, this is all going to be needing to be more, there's going to be more documentation about that so that consumers understand that what their agent is paid, it's in an agreement between them and the agent. Just like the listing agent and the seller have a contract, the buyer and the buyer's agent will have a contract. So there's very clear roles between those two parties. So there you have it. That's the nuts and bolts of that. For a senior, for anybody really. I mean, yes, this is another contract. And I think that the important aspect of this is interview agents and see who is breaking this information down for you, who is providing the most value and giving you ample explanations and answering your questions and showing you exactly what they're offering to you for what you're hiring them for. So this is an opportunity, I think, for everybody in this process to take a step back and say, well, we want to make sure that we are working with somebody. If we're going to have an employment contract with this agent, that we actually have somebody that's providing a full service that's going to meet the goals that we have as buyers. So there you go. What do you think about all that?
I actually think it's a really, I think it's a good bill to pass because, and I'm coming from the senior living side of it because I didn't buy this house. My husband did all the stuff. So I don't know that part, but I do know that when seniors are in such a vulnerable state of thinking and processing of them moving to higher levels of care, leaving their home that they've lived in for so long, raised their family, and that there's already so much going through their mind that sitting down and signing a contract with someone that they might not even know, I can't begin to think how scary that could be. So I think having it laid out in more detail about who they're working with, what they do, is crucial, because also, you know, so many seniors are taken advantage of these days.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
And I'm so tired of seeing it with the scams, and, you know, selling a home is part of their investment for their future in retirement living.
Right.
And care is expensive. It's very expensive. So I think the bill is good if it passes.
Yeah.
Thank you for breaking it down.
Yeah, of course. And I think that, so this has passed. We don't have a date yet as to when this will be required for folks like me who meet with clients. But and to anybody out there who, especially talking about seniors, often, and I'm sure that you see this too, is they have family members, or if you have folks that surround you that you trust, that can be with you when you meet with people, so they can, you know, be the gatekeeper, so to speak, pump the brakes when maybe there's pressure to sign something right away without any further consideration, or anything like that. That, you know, I would advise anybody to have people you trust that can be a second set of eyes and ears in any of these situations, especially for seniors. As we know, this is a lot of overwhelming stuff. So,
yeah.
All right. So that's House Bill 4058. Oops, we'll take that back real quick. I'm going to share my screen. We're going to touch on this ODOT with the news that came about yesterday, that the governor is interested, and she has basically said that the tolling plan on I-5 and 205, we've talked about this a few times over the last couple months, where they're talking about putting these tolling stations. Travel on I-5 and 205 would be tolled, is going to be halted. So, which is interesting. So this is KGW reporting, but this is, and OPB, this is an OPB article, but it's in the news all over the metro here. So this is interesting because a lot of opposition to this happened within Clackamas County. I was at the Chamber of Commerce, held the State of the City address. The mayor talked a lot about this and the challenges with this. So Natalie, you live in this area. What are your thoughts on this tolling plan as an idea in general? What have you thought about all this?
I get overwhelmed with thinking about it, because, to be honest, it's just another added expense to add to my family. You know, things are already so expensive these days, childcare, you know, and then you have your car payments, you have your mortgage, you have all these bills that need to be paid. And so adding on another bill is just outrageous for this day and age. I think with how the economy is, I don't know how it would be feasible for most families.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing too, and the mayor brought up a good point when he talked about this, is he said that Clackamas County is going to bear kind of an undue burden with this tolling because of the fact that there will be people dodging the tolls. So they'll go through our surface streets, they'll take Highway 99, the back roads will be there'll be a lot more traffic from people who are trying to avoid paying for those tolls. So we take it in that respect, and safety and quality of life with the greater traffic on our surrounding area roads and streets. And then also the cost for Clackamas County citizens who commute to work, but they live in Clackamas County. It would be a large burden placed on one portion of the metro. And I think that
absolutely,
it's smart to hold off and see, especially when we're tolling roads that have already been paid for. And there's got to be more solutions out there. And I know that the mayor had said too, hey, we want to be part of the additional solutions to these issues, not just say we don't want something and leave it at that. But there are other ways I think that they can achieve what they're trying to achieve from the tolling. And also I heard that the tolling wasn't even going to pay for itself over the next course of time, however many years that was. So anyway, that's the news there. So I think that's encouraging. So, okay. So the title of this episode today was Downsizing with Grace. That is why I wanted to have Natalie join us today. So how would we approach this? So Natalie, you work with seniors who need various levels of care, like you said, whether assisted living placement or hospice or kind of anything in between on that spectrum. When you think of downsizing with grace for the seniors that you serve, what does that look like to you?
Um, yeah, there's a lot that's wrapped up in that. I think that for a senior that's downsizing, they have to process the fact again that they're moving into higher level of care. They're either
Mm-hmm.
leaving their home and their loved one that they live with and downsizing on their own, living independently with care or not. But like, what do they do with all of the belongings in their house that they've collected over 50, 70 years of their life that are sentimental to them? So there's a lot to go in with downsizing. And thankfully, there's a lot of resources out there locally that can help myself and my clients in the process.
Sure. So let's say somebody watching this, whether they're our age or they're our parents' age, have a family member or friend or somebody they care about who really is in a situation where they need to be taken or move out of the house that they're in, that they lived in for 40, 50 years. They've got a bunch of stuff. It's overwhelming. And they really need to be placed with someplace with a greater level of care. What is the first step that they should take when they recognize this situation, they recognize that there's a need?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think first and foremost, a lot of seniors need to have a plan in place. So whether that's having your will needs to be done, you need to have a designated power of attorney, you need to get all of that stuff done in paperwork, because it makes the process so much easier for seniors. Even in, in the case, a lot of the cases that I deal with are emergency situations where there's no time for them to choose where they want to move. The POA, myself, need to find the best fit for them because they're in the hospital, either not cognizant enough to make that decision, or they are, but they don't have the time to go and do all the touring that it takes. So having that power of attorney.
POA is power of attorney, right? Is that right? Okay, perfect.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I think having that first and foremost is the most important. And, you want to make sure that you have someone in place for when you do pass away, and your money and your house and your things that you love go to someone that you trust. Mm-hmm. So with that, I tend to reach out to a downsizing company. I've used Northwest Grace Moving Company. Mm-hmm. They help with downsizing. I've also used Friendly Move Management, and really, they help incorporate all of their things that they want to take with them in the move. They pack and unpack for you. But, things that are really sentimental, they really would like those belongings to come with you just so you feel comfortable in your new environment.
Sure. So it sounds like, and I guess these are hard conversations to have well in advance of any need actually arising, would be have those affairs in order so that you're going, that your family member is, or your loved one, whoever they are, is going to a place that they're comfortable in, that they want to be, without having this emergency type placement where maybe to them it's not preferable or ideal. But at least they had some greater control of the situation early on. So it sounds like, if at all possible, have those challenging, difficult, uncomfortable conversations with that loved one, and be sure that these things are set up, that you have the attorney, you have a power of attorney established, you have your will or your trust set up, so that there's at least instructions and things that can be done should that need come up. Does that seem like a fair assessment?
Yeah, I agree with that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when they call you, so they have their family member that needs this level of care, and these situations happen. So then how do they find someone like you? How would they reach, other than saying, hey, warmembraceseniorservices.com, which, by the way, in a week or so, your site will be ready, correct? Since this is a new website for you.
Yes. Yeah.
So those watching this after March 14th, in about a week or so after, you'll be able to find the site. So how else would they be able to find somebody like you? Where are they connecting with you most of the time?
Yeah. Besides Google and, searching a senior placement agency, I work a lot with the hospitals. Meridian Park Hospital does refer a lot to my company and my services. Word of mouth also, but typically it is Google, it's the internet that people are searching how to find resources.
Gotcha. So that family finds you. However they find you, whether it's hospital, Google, your website, word of mouth, whatever. What does that look like when they contact you? What happens next?
Yeah, I think, most families, I think, are unfortunately in a state of panic when they reach out to me. So when I do take the initial call, the intake call, I just sit down with the families on the phone, or I can schedule an in-person meeting. But we just discuss, who the senior is, how are they related to you, what happened, what's important to them. Most importantly, their care needs and how I can help best fit them in the right community and placement. I always want to sit down with the families and talk them through the entire process, because they and the senior need to feel 100% confident and feel good about the decision that they're making. And I'm here to walk them through that. Sure. I will accompany them on all the tours. I will schedule the tours for them. I will do all of the communication with the communities or the adult care homes, schedule them, walk the families through, and just help ask those questions that they might not know to ask, because there's a lot that goes into it. From there, we schedule assessments. Most people need assessments to be able to go into higher levels of care with physician orders and such. And then, the moving begins, and what can they take? What can't they take? Are they approved for a hospital bed? So, there's so many things that I help the families out with that aren't necessarily in the referral process, but I feel like going the extra step for all my families and clients is the best thing for them. And I'm happy to do it. So I like to kind of brainstorm and learn more resources just so I can be more of a help.
Sure. So let's say they need to find a care facility that this family member or loved one needs to go to. You accompany them, you help them identify the right types of places. You help them network in there. Is that part of what you do as well?
Yeah. So even their financials, some people are really blessed to be well off and have the funds to pay whatever the cost is, but some aren't. And some have, $60,000 or less to spend down, which means they would need to be on state funding, Medicaid at some point. So you would have to find a Medicaid contracted community or adult care home that can still provide that care for them after they run out of funds. So there's a lot that goes into it. And, finance is a huge piece, because senior living today is so expensive. I think my average client is spending $9,000 to $10,000 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That is a very good chunk of money. So again, I think it really goes back to that first point that we talked about is, again, we're not financial advisors. We're not offering financial advice. But if we're offering any kind of suggestions, it is to make plans early and plan for the financial side of things too. So it might involve a CPA or a financial planner that can help you outline those steps, especially if those finances are a concern, and what you might need to do in the event that your loved one indeed can't afford $9,000 or $10,000 a month, and what that's going to look like for them moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and resources like elder law attorneys and traveling notaries that can come out and sign paperwork at the hospital. I do that a lot, where families need to be able to get power of attorneys on paper, and the notary will come out and do that, which is really helpful for them as well.
Sure. That's amazing. So for folks who are in this stage, what are 3 things, or even maybe not 3, but what are some things that they really need to be cautious about? If there's anything that you can think of in this process, whether it's who they're working with or when they look at facilities, what are some red flags that might be out there that they should know about?
Yeah. Red flags. I think, obviously I love what I do as a service, and I feel like I'm a good advocate for seniors these days, because my number one focus is for them and what is good for them. So reaching out to people that know the industry really well. That's not a red flag, but that's trying to kind of steer away from the red flags.
It's that who you work with matters. It really does. And I think, and it's the same in the real estate industry, that who you work with matters, and not all agents are created equally. So absolutely interview people and see who it is that you're dealing with, see what kind of their personality is, but also see how they interact with you and what their services are, and if it's going to line up with what you're looking for. Because again, not everybody's created equally across the board. Absolutely not.
Right. Yeah. And there's also, you know, the long-term care website for the state of Oregon provides a lot of violations and citations against each community, facility, adult care home. So I tend to use that a lot as well, because I'm never going to place someone in a community that I've never vetted on my own. So we're always constantly looking at that website, you know, what's their most recent violation or citation. And if there are those against them, then I address those issues and see how they've put a plan in place to make sure that that never happens again.
Right. And you've been in a lot of these facilities yourself, that you are. So when a family asks you about them, you have some knowledge of having been through the place with your own eyes. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think, I hate even mentioning COVID, but I think that that has really changed a lot of how the larger facilities run in employment. So again, I think it's just really just reaching out to these services that people provide that will help navigate this huge process for these seniors, and, you know, really connecting with someone that knows the industry.
Right. Right. And so another question for you, for those who may be curious, somebody like you in your business, how are you compensated? Is the family responsible for paying you for your services, or where does that come from?
That's a good question. Thank you. So we are a free service to all of our families. We get compensated based on placement. And, you know, in some situations, facilities don't work with placement agencies, but that facility in particularly is a good fit for my client. I will still move them in there, because at the end of the day, that is the right thing to do. It's where they're safe. It's where they'll fit in. It's where their finances groove a little bit with the system. So at the end of the day, you know, not always am I compensated with all my clients. It's a bonus when I am, but if not, it's fine. It's about what's best for them.
Sure. That's amazing. And I think having, and especially not just for the loved one's sake, but also the family's sake, and notwithstanding the stress and emotional burden that they're carrying when you go into these situations where it's a hospice care need, and having somebody that is going to walk with you through this, because there's nothing easy about putting a loved one into a care situation or helping them downsize. It's, for the loved ones out there, it's stressful. I you know, having been through that with my dad, who he had Alzheimer's disease, and when he needed care, he needed it right now. And having to go through everything like that was a lot. And it's so, having somebody available that has a caring heart and a heart of service to help people through these times, I think is great. And I'm so glad that you're out there and able to help folks in these situations as part of this. One of the big components of downsizing is later in life and what that looks like.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. So any final thoughts that you want to leave with the people regarding your services or anything like that?
I think the biggest thing is really just having a plan in place and getting, you know, the right paperwork and people in order that you trust, that you want to have be responsible for your medical decisions, your financial decisions. You know, I myself need to complete my will for my kids and, you know, my family, and all the what ifs that could happen. And it's dreading. I am terrified to do it, but I know that I need to do it because it's in the best interest of them. if something were to happen. So
Sure.
definitely plan in place, and then reaching out or just asking others that maybe have gone through this process, you know, who they talk to, who they use, what resources helped for them. And once my website is up, there'll be obviously a way to contact me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to give me a call.
Sure.
Yeah.
And areas, so you say you work, Meridian Park Hospital is one of your big referring hospitals. So what is that geographic area for folks out there who are interested as far as your area that you tend to cover?
Yeah, you know, a lot of it is Tualatin, Tigard, Beaverton, but you know, I do get a lot of reoccurring clients, or not reoccurring clients, but word of mouth from clients for Westland, like Oswego, Southeast Portland. I mean, the entire Portland area, I definitely work with. I have a contract with mostly everybody, even Central Oregon. I love placing seniors over there. It's a nice trip to get away and go meet families. So
awesome.
Yeah, I can cover anywhere.
All right. So there you have it, folks. Natalie with Warm Embrace Senior Services. Keep that tucked in the back of your mind. Should, for any of you out there who are dealing with or trying to facilitate those loved ones in your life that are going to be seeking out this type of care or needing to make some plans, she would be a fantastic resource. Keep her there. In a week or so, you're going to be able to find her website. Natalie, thank you so much for joining me today, and really appreciate your insights on this. I know it's going to be very helpful for those folks out there who are in need of these types of bits of advice, for sure.
Thanks, Jennifer, for having me.
You betcha. You betcha. So thanks for joining me today. Hope this was insightful. But hey, remember, like this channel, subscribe for updates. I'm here and I'm offering lots of great information. I'm going to keep you posted on what's happening in the Canby, Clackamas County, and North Willamette Valley areas in the real estate market. And again, I'm Jennifer Schurter. I'm a real estate expert here in the Clackamas County area. And if you're looking to make a move around here or around Portland suburbs, I hope you'll look me up. Otherwise, I'll see you next Thursday. Will you join me? We'll see you then.